Hello everybody, I have another great video for you guys. So today we're going to talk about what's the difference between being a sugar baby and being an escort. This is based on me talking with other ladies in the industry and for myself having tried being an escort and briefly tried being on a sugar baby site. Yes, even though when I was 60, I got appointments on the sugar baby site. Let me go into the sugar baby sites first. I tried several, but what I had known even from many younger women I talked to was a lot of really cheap guys on there that try to take advantage of women who don't know their value by lowballing them. And there's a lot of negotiation involved. On the sugar baby site, the women generally have to post their pictures, especially showing their faces, and write an introduction, whereas the men who are on there often hide their faces. So they can be anonymous while the woman is not, which to me is a very unfair playing field that doesn't respect the woman. It puts the man in a one-up position, really, whereas it's the woman whose sexuality and privacy needs to be respected. The second thing I didn't like about it is that I had a friend who did it for me, who's done it for like a decade, and what she has to do, she has to woo the men, just like a stripper. She has to woo the men, chase the men, invite them in. And again, it's opposite energy. It's masculine energy to chase men for sex or to chase men for appointments. And in fact, she hated men. She was very resentful of them. And I mean, I could see why, because having to chase them, it's not, again, an unfair playing field to me, it seems. Kind of like when I talked about being a stripper, how women have to chase the men for the lap dances. It's uneven, okay? It's uneven. The third thing is a lot of these guys would barter. And while there are men on there who just want 1 hour appointments, a lot of them want more of an experience for very little money. They want to see how much they can get for how little they can get, many of them, and they think this is a good place to do it. So some of the men would say things like, well, I usually pay a woman this much for when she comes to my house. You know, we hang out and have dinner, and I pay her generally, I think they call it pay per visit, pay per something or other. I don't remember. But then they like it when the woman spends the night and has breakfast the next day for free. So there's this element of getting more, not paying the woman for her time or feeling like, oh, I'm so special, she's going to stay with me. It's almost like they want a girlfriend, but they don't want to pay girlfriend prices. I know someone who told me that she used to be on those sites and that, a guy took her to lunch and she had sex with him because she thought it was so great that he paid for her lunch when she was in her early 20s. And then she's like, well, now I'm in my 30s and I know better than that. So I've had other women tell me that they tried the sugar baby sites and it was very disappointing because all the guys were just cheapskates, very cheap. A woman should get at least $500 or $600 an hour for her intimate time. In some cities like New York, it's even more, like $1,000 an hour. And I've seen women in the ads who want to charge like $1,500 for an hour. They're not going to get as many appointments. But when men want to pay $200 an hour, you're starting to deal with men who are kind of the bottom of the rung in terms of quality, and they're trying to like get something for nothing. No, I think that a lot of women don't really enjoy their experience on there. And like I said, I did try it once for like a few months, and it wasn't as good as having an escort add up because I had to chase the men and they wanted to pay very little and they wanted to be anonymous. Well, I had to show my face and my pictures and they could hide themselves completely. It seemed very unfair. For escorts, there's so much more empowerment. It's the most beautiful, transparent, authentic model. I'm not going to talk on here about how to make sure you don't get scammed by an escort, but let's assume that this woman is legit, okay? From a woman's point of view, a woman puts up her ad. It's an invitation. She doesn't have to show her face. I didn't. If you look up my name, you see some very old ads with very old prices where I showed my face and used my real name, but then later I doubled my prices and I hid my face and used a stage name. So the ad is an invitation. The lady doesn't have to show her face at all, and she sets out her terms, how she likes to be contacted, what are her rates, what are her hours, what is her deposit policy. So the woman sets a table, it's like, here's my table, do you want it? And if you want it, this is how you gain entry. It's almost like when you're applying, looking at houses, you need a pre-approval letter. So there's a screening process, and it's fair to both parties because the man is anonymous and the woman is anonymous too. She doesn't have to show her face, although many ladies do. And she can set out there what her prices are, although a lot of ladies don't. But the woman sets her hourly rate. So the fee is known up front, so it's very respectful. And it puts people in an equal position of power where the man can read through the ad and decide exactly what he wants and what he wants to pay, and if he agrees with the terms and the hours. And men are not trying to push boundaries like, well, I paid you for 2 hours, but can you spend the night? Typically, women who charge for overnights, it's like $2,500 or $4,000 for an overnight, whereas the sugar daddies, they want it for free. And a lot of women charge extra for doing alcohol, going to someone's place. I never did do the alcohol. I didn't offer the alcohol. I didn't like going to people's homes. I didn't feel as safe there or comfortable there. But a lot of those sugar daddies want the woman to not only drive to their house, but give them so much free time. So the escort is more in charge of how she runs things, and she can charge a deposit and everything like that. So now, I think that the escort way is a better way for ladies to go because they are equally empowered with the man and they don't have to chase the men. We offer an invitation and then the man decides if he wants to hire that person. Now let's talk about the clientele. A lot of people have the misunderstanding, I don't know where it comes from, that men who hire ladies who offer intimate companionship are, that the women are drug addicts and strung out, or that the men are like, the people that we've seen on the billboards of the people who were like caught in a sting. The typical client is a professional. It's a man who's got things at stake. He values his health, his privacy, and he wants a sensual experience. So they want to go to someone where they feel safe, where they can have a sensual experience. And when I was doing it, my experience was that these men were immensely passionate, sensual, and wanted to enjoy me. Many of them wanted to give me an orgasm. If I ever said, well, touch me like this or don't touch me like this, they wanted to do it. The truth of it is that there are so many men, they're not watching the violent porn. They're watching something more sensual or no porn at all. The truth of it is that many men just want to enjoy the sensuality and touch of a woman, the presence of a woman. And while I'm sure there are these men that are like these Johns or whatever that are kind of lower class, I want to say, or they're a little rough or dangerous, the world is full of men who are actually like safe and fun and sensual and passionate. And so there are women that cater to that. All the ladies I've ever met while I was doing that, whether they were doing massage or escorting or sugar babying, had those types of clients. Like they would enjoy their clients, talking with their clients, seeing their clients. And even when I was on Twitter following other ladies in the industry, there were cases where women were assaulted. And I do think that they brought it on themselves by seeing people late at night, being drunk, being involved in the drug scene, going to hotels, somehow not putting themselves in dangerous situations as women always can. But the majority of the men were extremely pleasant and fun, and I found it immensely emotionally rewarding. I'm very tuned into my feelings. I'm very tuned into what lifts me up and what nourishes me and what drains me. I'm very in tune, and I found these appointments extremely nourishing to my heart and fun and playful, and it just kind of aligned with me. Now, I would say that fewer than 1% of women in the world would even do a job like that, maybe even fewer than that. And many of them who do it, maybe are doing it because even though they hate it. It was a gift. It's a gift that I was given that I cannot explain. I think that having been married and having been a mother, it's an offering. It's a service. It involves love. People don't talk about love, but it involves love. Love in that moment, honoring that man through his cock, embracing him, his whole being, nourishing him within the boundaries of how I like to be touched. Most of the men, even though they're like alpha men, wanted me to lead, which was something that I had to learn to get used to because I'm actually pretty submissive. And and I was shocked that even in my 50s and early 60s, when I was still doing this until recently, that men would pay me so much money, even though I'm so old, because it's this myth that men do not want women after a certain age. Most of my clients were men younger than me, because so many younger guys were like, I want to be with an older woman. But there were also men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who like women their own age. That is a thing. You know, when they can pick anyone, they can pick among thousands of women, and they pick somebody mature. Some of them just always just went to mature providers if that was their thing. And there are probably more men booking the younger ones, but they're like 95% of the women who are escorts are in their 20s and 30s. There are very few that are over 30. So in my age category, there are even fewer. So that meant less competition, even though there might also be less demand. But they would say things like, I do not want to be with a woman my daughter's age, or I do not want to be with a woman my granddaughter's age, or I prefer mature women, they just turn me on. So that's a little bit about the clientele. It's high end, and when my prices were lower when I started out, I did see some guys that were heavy set, some of them that were a little gross, but I'm like, I gotta love this guy. He needs love and affection, you know, it's an offering. And when I doubled my prices to $600 an hour, and that was the max I ever charged, I did have much higher quality of clients that were more well-dressed, they work out, educated. Even the younger ones, you know, they might not have money, but they were students or on a career path building their careers. Some of the younger guys were so busy building their careers, they didn't have time to date, or they were dating. They were telling me some of their dating stories. So I always like to chat with people also after the appointments, like finding out about their dating life, or if they want to talk about their marriage, or talking about geopolitics or the economy or whatever. But I would never be intimate with them off the clock. So I do not hook up, and I did not hook up then because there's something that people don't understand. They might question how I can do this, but somehow when men paid me, it was like an offering, and I never felt used. I didn't get attached. I think there was like one or two guys where I was like kind of like them a little bit. Um, but you know, I realized it was just an appointment, but I didn't feel used. But in my personal life, when I was hooking up, I felt very used by men that were just using me for sex, or if the sex was bad, I would have all these regrets. But when they were paying me, I had no regrets at all. Like, I felt very fulfilled. I could tell that they really enjoyed themselves, that they felt very accepted, you know, accepted. And that's what I always wanted. It's like, it gave me such joy to see that they were getting embodied, lost in the moment, and felt so accepted and nourished and loved in that moment. And so I was able to just get naturally turned on through the kissing and just staying embodied. And just over the years, I had to learn to express more what I liked and didn't like. So there was a lot of personal development I got to experience along the way in terms of how I communicated during the appointment, how I did my screening, and how I handled guys that were annoying. So I used this to, like, you know, practice taking different pictures of myself, practice with different kinds of ads, different kind of wording, different ways of interacting. You know, I just always like to try different things. And one thing that it was really important, if any ladies are thinking of getting into it, the more clothes you wear, the better is the clientele. Because the men will pay more for a woman who's wearing more clothes. But you have to be attractive. You have to present yourself well in the ads. You have to be attractive in some way. You can be curvy, you can be skinny, but if you're not very pretty, your prices will be lower. So the more attractive the woman is, the higher can be the prices. So like some of these like very hot young ladies will have a rate of 1,000 or 1,500, but at this age, I would not get it. I might get like one appointment a year if I did that, you know, if I were still doing that. But the women have to be fit. They have to present themselves well. And I would say in order to have repeat clients, they have to, you know, the man who comes there would have to be a guy that enjoyed her company and that sees women regularly. For some guys, it's a very periodic thing. Maybe they just do it once in their life or a few times. Some guys do it a lot. And, you know, they want a lot of variety. Some guys find one woman they really like, and then they want to stick with that one woman. So they're all different, you know, and it's, you know, all different. So I'm going to make a separate video about, do sex workers ever get into relationships? But this is going to end the video on sugar babies, escorts, and clients, what it was like. And thank you so much for watching my video.